So welcome everyone to our webinar for youth workers and community organisations. Today we'll be covering why early intervention is so important for young people who are struggling with disordered eating and negative body image. And we'll be introducing you to our wonderful new project, Be Body Positive. I'll just introduce you to our partners. So this is a partnership project with both North East London and East London NHS Foundation Trusts, Barnardo's, ELBA and Infused Media. So with us today, we've got a few people you'll see on the panel. So I'm Nina, I'm the Communications Manager for Be Body Positive. We have Jennifer Danby here, who works for North East London NHS Foundation Trust for the Eating Disorder Services. We have Tiziana Sylvester, who used to work for ELBA and used to work with us on this project. And we have David Crosby, who's the Be Body Positive Project Manager. And finally, we have Lucy Lee. Lucy works for Thames Life, which is a community organisation. It's a community development trust working alongside the people of Barking, Riverside and Gascoigne to champion residents driving change. What is Be Body Positive? So as I said, it is a partnership project. We have developed a website which contains information and resources for young people, parents, carers and health professionals, covering topics surrounding disordered eating and body image. So why did we develop this project? So it's become really clear throughout the pandemic and beyond that the number of children and young people struggling with disordered eating and negative body image has increased exponentially. The number of children and young people admitted to hospital for eating disorders has risen by 35% in the past year. What's more, almost 10,000 children and young people started NHS eating disorder treatment between April and December 2022. And finally, 3 out of 4 children as young as 12 dislike their bodies and are embarrassed by the way they look. So these statistics tell us all the same story really, which is that early intervention is really important. And the reason why is because it works on a spectrum. On the one end you have severe eating disorders, on the other end you have intuitive eating, and between there you have disordered eating. And disordered eating really encompasses a wide range of behaviours, not even just eating. It could be excessive exercise, which aren't specific to or severe enough for a specific eating disorder. And so that can include things like skipping meals, overeating, binge eating, restriction of food or calorie intake, and even excessive exercise. So disordered eating is often like the first sign of someone developing an eating disorder, and it's really important to catch things earlier and offer support earlier before it develops into a crisis. So Be Body Positive was developed to act as that early support and act as that early intervention. And I'll just play this video for you.
Welcome to Be Body Positive, where we hope you will learn more about your relationship with food, your body, and your mental well-being. We have a range of sessions for you to navigate through, learning as you go and taking part in quizzes, guess a celebrity tasks, and much more. We hope these activities will help you to learn more about a range of topics, including how to nourish your body and building a positive relationship with your body image. Welcome to...
So, the aim of Be Body Positive is to support young people as they reflect on their own eating behaviours and body image. We've developed 3 psychoeducational and self-guided modules, and they were designed by experts but co-produced with young people, parents, carers and clinicians. And I'll go through some of the content now that's involved in these modules. So the first module is called Normal Eating and Body Image, and it covers a wide range of topics, including intuitive and balanced eating, feeling comfortable in your body, breaking free from diet culture, and recognising the power of social media. It's filled with interactive exercises as well as information And there's even a note section which young people can use to reflect as they go along and save the notes for later. One of our young person testers said, "It's very simple and clear to understand and personalise, which makes it engaging and fun." The second module is called Fussy Eating versus ARFID. ARFID is Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. And the experts that we were working with realised that there was a huge gap in resources on ARFID, and there was a real lack of understanding on what that key fundamental difference is between fussy eating and avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And so they've put together some of the best tools that are being used to support young people with ARFID, which covers things like understanding hunger and managing anxiety around food. One of our parent testers said a no-nonsense resource like Be Body Positive would have been very useful early on to support my child's difficulty with eating. And finally, our final module is called What is Disordered Eating? This is all about spotting those signs, those early signs, and learning to support emotional regulation in young people. And it covers that fundamental difference as well between disordered eating and a diagnosable eating disorder as well. One of our programme leads for mental health in schools said, Be Body Positive is an excellent toolkit for anyone working with young people, as it breaks down expert knowledge into engaging content and resources. As well as having our 3 separate modules, we also have some more content on the website which could be useful for young people, such as stories. So it might be that someone reads the story and feels validated, and it could even be the inspiration that they need for their own recovery. We also have a resources section which contains more kind of in-depth content which parents actually ask for, and you can save the resource and share the resource around. We also have an amazing new feature, which is local support services map. And this is actually where we need your help. If you know of any local support services which cover kind of eating disorders, disordered eating, body image, health, well-being for young people, or support for parents and carers of young people, please do send them to us, hello@bebodypositive.org.uk. When you go on our website, you'll notice that a lot of the resources we have on this map already are very London-centric, and that's because we've been using our links and connections in North East London and East London. But I've noticed there's so many people here from like the north of the UK, for instance, and we'd love to hear about the support services that you know of, or maybe you work for a community organisation or wellbeing group, and you'd like to have your resource and your support services shared. So please do send them to us and we'll add them to our map. So finally, in a digital world where negative and harmful views of body image can be difficult to avoid, Be Body Positive aims to carve out a nourishing and safe space. We hope young people will come to the site and learn how to feel at ease in their bodies. I'm now going to show you what the website actually looks like. So this is our website, and you'll see we've got all our content here for young people, parents and carers and professionals. Today I'm going to show you the content for young people, which is on body image and normal eating. The reason why is that I think this is the content that you could really easily signpost young people to, the people that you work with, and they could fill it out on their own. But you could also go through it together in a group or one-to-one, and it's, I think, probably the content that you would want to do with young people. So I'll start there. So this is the first session in body image and normal eating. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that it's a journey, you'll notice there's all of these different sessions here which have locks next to them. And that's because young people can work their way through the content and then unlock it as they go. The main reason for this is we don't want to bombard young people with all of the information all at the same time. It really is a step-by-step journey, and we really want young people to take the time to reflect and have plenty of opportunity to do so. I just also want to reiterate that all of this content, while it was developed by NHS experts and the charity sector, the final product has actually been moulded by real people with real experience. So I'll go ahead and start the module. So the module begins by asking, what is body image? It's really starting to expand our understanding of body image as beyond appearance and vanity. Appearance is really just the tip of the iceberg. And so you might not always be able to perceive what's going on below the skin. So for some people that might be fear, or it could also be confidence. And I just wanted to show you here as well the notes section. So this is what I was speaking about earlier. People can make notes about what they're learning. And then at the end, there'll be an opportunity to save, download, and print or share that content. So working through the module, that you'll see there's these kind of interactive exercises to warm young people up, including a quiz. So I'll go ahead and ask everyone, and feel free to put your answers in the chat. What is body image? Is it how you feel about your body? Is it how you feel others perceive you? Is it how you see or perceive yourself or think about your body? Let's see how your answers are. Wonderful. Yeah, getting some great answers. Thank you. So I'm just going to work my way through the quiz. We won't have time to go through all of it today because we really want to have a discussion, but the whole point of the quiz is to kind of debunk some of the myths surrounding body image and prove that the perfect body doesn't actually exist. And it's really trying to educate young people on the myth of normal. There's also, you'll see, plenty of opportunity for reflection as well. So asking young people why they selected this option. So after the quiz, there's a bit of information on the topic. So looking at the spectrum between positive body image and poor body image. And it's really asking young people to reflect on themselves and some of the thoughts and feelings associated with body image, figure out for themselves where they sit on that spectrum. So for example, for positive body image, you may have feelings of gratitude towards your body and all the things it does for you. You might be comfortable with your body, even if it doesn't meet societal standards. You might feel connected and able to listen to your body. And what I think is quite important and relevant for your work is that you might notice when a young person's struggling with poor body image. So, for example, if you notice language that they're using about themselves or other people, or if you hear them comparing themselves to what they see online. But then again, using the same iceberg image earlier, there's so much that you don't see. So you might actually think someone's really confident because they're taking a lot of selfies, or they give off that vibe, but actually they really hate the way they look and compare themselves constantly to other people. So I think that's why it's really important to give young people the space to reflect it on themselves in a supportive environment, and they can really figure out whether they align more with positive body image or the poor body image. So we have obviously worked with service users and young people who've gone through eating disorder services. So these are some of the comments that young service users themselves said about descriptions of positive body image. So realizing that the perfect body does not exist, realizing how healthy your body is more important than how it looks. Recognizing that who you are as a person is more important than how you look. In this next slide, there's a poem by an Instagram poet, Nikita Gill, and I'll just read you the first line of this poem. What if I told you the word pretty is a skin deep 6-letter prison we put you in? Which is incredibly powerful words. On this next slide, it's kind of speaking to the complexity of body image here, the complexity of even calling body image positive. It's too complex to be solved simply by being positive, and actually asking someone to be positive might minimize the emotions and real feelings that are associated with body image. So I think this slide is really starting to undo the kind of black and white thinking that people have around body image. Being body positive is more about acceptance of your body as it is, rather than thinking if I lose weight, I'll be body positive, or if my body changes, then I can be body positive. And the next slide is all about starting to be critical about social media and doing a bit of kind of social media curation. So giving young people that power to consume things that are like positive, and kind of following accounts of people that are body positive rather than accounts that make them feel really bad about themselves. This is something that Lucy's going to touch on more in her part of the discussion. So I'm just going to quickly scan through the next few slides so you can see the rest of the content on this first session. So you see you've got videos, and again, more space for reflection, what they're taking away from the session. And then that's it, that's the first session done. So you'll see here, if I'd been making notes, this is where they would be going. And there's space for notes for all the way through. And then you can share this page, you can download this page to print it, and then you can move on to the next session. Where is it? Here, save and continue. And that's unlocked session 2. So what I've just shown you was only one session, and I showed you that very, very quickly. This is all stuff that can take a bit of time, and I think by the end of it, by session 7, you'll have a much deeper understanding of the topics that were introduced only in session 1. So now I'm going to hand over to Lucy for our discussion, but before I do, I just want to remind you that you can visit Menti, www.menti.com, and you can use this code to get into it. That's 53791726. And I'm just going to now share the questions on Menti. Over to you, Lucy.
Thanks, Nina. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So we're just going to have a quick discussion on the questions that Nina is just about to display. I'm going to give a couple of examples, but if you could please use Menti to give your own answers, and so we can have a quick look at what you're saying. And if you have anything you would like to share in and around those questions, it would be great if you put them in there as well. So the first question is, Be Body Positive is an online resource, but how can we use it as a tool with young people we interact with in person? So as a youth worker, community development trust, etc., we tend to work with families and young people. And one of the examples of a way that we have used it, we've tried it and also will continue to use it this way, was around social media. So as Nina's mentioned, the influence of social media on young people every day is huge. I have 2 teenagers myself, an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. And just having a look at feeds in general gives you great insight as to how young people are thinking about the way they look. So one of the tasks that we did was to get young people together in a group and to put them into pairs. And to, as usual, they've usually got their phone somewhere very close by. And so they bring it out and have a look at their own feeds. So maybe ask them to choose their favorite app, TikTok, Instagram, whatever their preference is, to have a look at their own feeds, but then to swap phones, or maybe just place them on the table and have a look at each other's feeds, and to kind of give feedback to each other on what that feed is telling them. So we want to kind of find out if your partner's feed is very negative about body image, or is it providing a specific type of look, or what is the story with that feed? Is it telling them, you know, actually maybe you need to look like this, or maybe this is the only thing that is socially acceptable? And by having that reference to each other, you kind of, it's like young people don't always want to listen to us, but they will listen to each other. So by having that discussion, there's like an honest feedback with each other as to what they're actually consuming on a daily basis. And following on from that, you can have a group discussion about telling, you know, the truth about what they see and whether it is a good or maybe negative impact on their everyday life. So some of the questions I can already see popping up, the answers, sorry. So through schools, as part of one to work with the young people, is there any, Nina, was there any particular ones that you wanted to touch on? We would sit together to do it together. I would avoid doing it in school. It would be unfair to open them up to difficult emotions and send them back to lessons. Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think it would be better in kind of an extracurricular activity. It doesn't have to be so serious, and more of a fun kind of exercise where you don't want the conversation to become too heavy, but yet we still want to be honest about what we're seeing and what we're consuming every day. It may be good.
There was a good one here about using it within a session on healthy relationships, peer pressure and social media, so kind of embedded within a wider curriculum or session that's been developed. I think that's a really good point. There's a lot of kind of within one-to-one support.
Mm-hmm. Use friendly, use their feedback to adapt. Exactly. So once you've done these kind of exercises, you would sit together and kind of reference, like on module 5, there is a list of accounts to follow. So if you were to go through each module, and by the time you've got to the end, because this is like a foundation to open the discussion, you know, you could have a look and compare what you had at the beginning in terms of what you were looking at on social media, and then compare it with the accounts to follow in module 5.
Another one that I thought, discussion with popcorn. I like that. That's a good one.
Always with food.
Yeah.
There is also the option of getting creative. So, you know, once you have had that discussion, it could be quite difficult to end it on a more lighter note, to get creative and maybe create some poetry around what young people are not saying to you. Like, what do they feel about themselves? Or maybe even do it in a partnership where you write a short poem about your partner. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a very positive poem, but just a very honest but kind reference to each other.
Another one, and there's one here, and I saw it further back as well, about with parents. I think that's really, really important. I think we'll talk about that in the next question as well.
Yeah.
But the idea of like your parents and people who work with young people modeling body positivity and body positive language. And there is plenty of content for parents on the website as well, so you can signpost to it.
And also I saw there was one-to-one visits on a health, if you just scroll up a bit, Nina, slightly down. It was referencing like one-to-one visit sessions. So yeah, it's not always comfortable to do this in a group. You know, it's not meant to be too heavy of a conversation, but rather an introduction into talking about it. So should we go into question 2?
Yeah, let's. I'm just going to quickly share. Yeah, there's some really, really good ideas here. Thank you, everyone. Next question.
So how important is it for community and youth workers to be able to spot the signs of disordered eating and negative body image, and why? So I know from experience that the best kind of reference to any kind of disordered eating or negative body image is just to kind of be the best positive person that you can about yourself. It's a really powerful tool in getting young people to kind of think about how they feel about themselves. If they see you modeling really good examples of yourself, for example, if you have children, you wouldn't stand in front of the mirror and say, oh, I look really fat today. It's really, those casual comments, you may not think somebody's listening, but they're listening. So, especially when you're working with young people, it's about your language, and also just paying attention to what they're not saying, because most of the time they won't say it. I think we have to reassess our own levels of awareness on a regular basis, because we usually think that we are doing or saying the things that need to be said in order to bring these conversations about, but most of the time we're not, because we're consumed with so many other things. I think it's good as workers, as my team, we got together to have a look at the Be Body Positive website, and we did the first module, and we realized that we got most of the questions wrong. And that was just because there is that assumption that we know what the ideal size is in society, but we don't actually. There isn't one. And when you've done all the kind of assessments together, you realize how much you don't know. So I'm just having a look at the answers here. So yes, obviously extremely important. It's a very hidden issue that can be difficult to talk about. It's important that we are able to open up that conversation so young people don't have to. Absolutely. Encourage downtime from phones and ascertain what sites they are assessing and which filters for photos, warn them of the dangers. Absolutely. So it's, when we're saying put down the phone as parents or youth workers, I think sometimes it's why we're putting down the phone. What is the reason? Just to have those kind of lighter conversations to prevent it becoming a mental ill health in young people and support the growth of a healthier community. Absolutely. Because it has links to other issues too. If a young person doesn't feel confident in themselves, they are likely to accept attention from the wrong people, which could have links to CSC grooming. 100%. I think the whole basis of Be Body Positive is just purely about opening the conversation and making it comfortable for everyone, and even just leaving it around as a reference. Obviously the first introduction might be just you do it in a group, do a module in a group and have a discussion, but then also printing off the results and sending them with the children home so they can reference it later. Provide opportunities to discuss these topics with a trained professional who can signpost and refer if needed. Yeah, absolutely. So the mapping tool on the website is perfect for that. And just again, to encourage you to do as Nina suggested. And if you have any groups you work with or yourselves that have services available in the wider out of London, to join and put those up as well would be brilliant. Catching the signs early can stop it becoming a bigger issue, definitely. Challenging perceptions at an early age. Yeah, this is kind of why I reference social media quite a lot, because they're often looking at things we don't know that they're looking at. And I'm not saying that we should all be censoring their phones 24/7, but it's good to just kind of take a quick look and have a quick why are you following that? What about that is so interesting, and kind of lead from conversations from there. Important so we could create time opportunities to have conversations, check in with young people. Exactly. And challenge, I think I've read that one. Important sign, very important to spot the signs early, make a plan for support and signposting. Don't shy away from the subject, especially with boys. Brilliant. Do you want to go through any more questions, Nina, or are you happy to go to the next?
Let's scan through this. That's some really good. So we kind of knew, we had a bit of a chat before this webinar, and Lucy and I were both like, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to say it's important, but it is amazing to see how many people in the kind of digital room right now are passionate about this and see how important it is, because I think that's really like the thing that will support young people, is having people around them who care about this.
Yeah. I think it's also really useful to have websites like this, because it helps us to also learn about the language that we use when we discuss these subjects. It can be very easy to use the words fat or skinny, and they're not always the most helpful words to use. So it's also just kind of easing young people into learning how to talk about this and talk about themselves in a better way.
Fantastic.
So
yeah, so I think there's everyone's kind of saying similar things and there's some agreement. So I'm going to move on to the next question.
So the last question, so can you think of ways we can engage mindfully, with diverse and minority communities on topics surrounding body image and disordered eating? I know Jennifer's done some work recently about this, so I don't know if you would like to come in quickly while we're getting some answers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly something we're still learning a lot about, and I don't think we have all of the answers, but I guess the thing that I think is really important is to not make assumptions about, based on your own experience in your body or the culture that you have grown up in. So I think it's really important to be asking questions about what does body image mean to you? What does it mean in your community, in your family? How does, your religion, if you have one, think about the body or talk about the body? And thinking about how that might have changed over time. So often, if young people are neurodiverse, they may have had a particular relationship with their body that's been there long-standing from being a young age. And often when we see disordered eating coming in, that might be something that's happening at a particular point in someone's life. So just trying to kind of assess or gain a better understanding about where it's come from is really important. So I think the more open we can be and asking questions and being aware of our own kind of assumptions and prejudices and blind spots is really important as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really enjoying the answers that are coming up. Awareness, social media, empathy, no judgment, open questions, asking questions about people's experience in their culture, which is extremely important because we also often don't know the depths of people's cultures and understand them. So just giving the opportunity for people to voice their concerns confidently and safely in a space where they can, even if it means it's critical, that's okay. The fact that you're talking about it and sharing it is fantastic. Ensuring resources use a diverse range of people in them, absolutely. The more diverse, of services available, the easier it is to talk to people. At the end of the day, we are conditioned sometimes to only talk to people who we can feel some kind of reference to. So obviously you would want to have people that look like you or understand your culture or religion to make you feel more comfortable to have those conversations. Awareness in professionals and parents, definitely celebrate difference. 100%. It's always a good thing. There is no one right way to do this. It's just good to have a discussion and good to be open regardless. People with lived experience deliver the sessions, definitely. And culturally respect, ask questions, be curious. Yeah, definitely, which goes back to language and how we discuss each other's cultures and beliefs. Listen to them and provide a safe space. Social media sometimes feeds in assumptions of certain beliefs in their own cultural, which means even then there isn't escape from family pressures. So addressing these, giving everyone a voice. Yeah, I think, speaking to some of the families that I've met during health checks, sometimes the conversation can be quite blunt and sometimes quite damaging to a young person listening to their family talk about their body image. So it's kind of like also helping parents to be able to talk safely, but also assisting with the language that is used. So the website offers those options as well. Promotion of GHIS support within the community spaces where different cultures gather, definitely.
Wonderful. That's all of the comments on that question. Some really amazing engagement from everyone today. Thank you so much. I think we now have around 20 minutes for a Q&A. I just want to quickly, before I go to the Q&A function in Zoom. I noticed someone asked a question in the chat, which was, if you don't need to log in, how does it save your progress through the modules? So when I was showing you the demo earlier of module 1, and I was kind of going through and talking about notes, what happens is if a young person or someone using the site decides they need to take a break or they want to come back to it later, they can literally just close the tab, and then when they next come to the website, it will automatically be where it is, and it's using cookies which save for 30 days. So in the same way that a website will remember your password, not password, your email when you log into like Amazon or something, it's using the same cookie function, but we don't have login details because we're not storing data. Someone else has asked, how can we email you? You can just use hello@bebodypositive.org.uk. I'm going to actually share the contact details slide now, so just give me a moment. Yeah, so to everyone that's been asking about how to get in touch with us, you can scan this URL and you can sign up to our newsletter. You could also email us at hello@bebodypositive.org.uk. Please do follow us. All of our social accounts are still quite new, but we're really trying to grow our following, and it would be amazing if you could help us with that. So follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. You can also hear about our updates. So we've got more content coming, an app launching, and we're also doing a formal evaluation, so seeing how the project's gone and seeing how we can improve. So I'm going to now open up our Q&A and see what questions we've got in there. So one of the questions was, is the second module on ARFID only useful for parents of children with a diagnosis? I work with lots of parents in schools who have struggled with eating and they're not sure if it's definitely ARFID. I think the module has really been developed to support people who aren't sure, as well as people who have a diagnosis. And there's content that's on there for young people, so young people with ARFID or potentially not sure, maybe ARFID. And then there's also content for professionals who are doing diagnosis work, and also parents and carers. So there's definitely content on there that covers all of that. Another question is, how long does it take to complete each module with a young person? It really varies. I think it could take anything from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Sorry, to complete one whole module. So that's every session in the module. And that really depends on how long you're taking to reflect on each slide. Some of the slides, like the poem slide, for instance, is just a poem and they can read it. It maybe only takes a couple of minutes to reflect on that. But some of the slides have kind of more in-depth exercises on there, or there might be the potential to do something in person, like an interactive exercise in person, in which case it would take longer. So it's really up to the young person, but also to whoever's facilitating this in youth work, how long you decide to take, and how you kind of pack it out within your own kind of exercises and games and things that you do. Here's some good questions. I'm just going to quickly check the chat in case there are any questions in there. So one of the questions is, would you say there is an appropriate age or just professional judgment? So when we originally designed the product, it was working with children between the ages of 11 and 16. We did, however, when we were testing, we had a kind of evaluation session, and we did have younger children that were there, and they got something out of it too. And I think that it is down to professional judgment. I would just bear in mind that the content's been written for 11 to 16-year-olds, so there might be some language that a young, someone who's like 9 or 10, they might not quite understand. And I think that's where it's quite important that there is an adult that they trust with them, doing it with them. And I think that that's probably the best way to go about it. And then for people that are older than 16, I think they can take what they can from it. But then they just need to be aware that it's for kind of younger teenagers. So, you know, a 19-year-old might think, oh, you know, the cartoons are too childish, you know. So I think it's really dependent on the young person. But I mean, I'm 28 and I've done the modules and I've got something out of it. So I think that's really up to each person. Someone said, all too often with eating disorders and disordered eating, the root cause and source is purposely not looked at, but rather CBT is used. What is your thoughts about the common widespread practice of not looking at the root cause? So I might pass over to Jennifer for this one, if you feel comfortable. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the rationale behind not trying to find the root cause is that it's multifactorial. So there's lots of different reasons why people go on to develop disordered eating or then eating disorders. So, you know, a combination of temperament, genetics, life experiences, culture, social factors, including things like emotion processing. So I guess a lot of the time we recognize that disordered eating or eating disorders develop as a way of kind of managing emotions. And so often there isn't a single cause because it's more complicated than that. But also the thing that causes it can be different from what's maintaining it. So it's more about kind of understanding perhaps how to move on from it, and sometimes that does mean looking back and kind of seeing some of the things that have contributed, but a lot of the time it's in the here and now. How can we support a young person to develop different ways of managing their emotions or responding to like their experiences? So I would say it's not wrong, but a lot of the time like it can be wasted energy to try and find the one thing because it's not that simple.
Just quickly sharing this resource that Kevin has sent to us about a body image and perception resource created by First Steps ED. Thank you very much for sending that, Kevin. What I can do, because unfortunately you haven't been able to share that with everyone in the chat, I can put that in the follow-up email so everyone has access to that as well. Thank you. So, any more questions? Someone has produced a PowerPoint for our board. Would you like to review it for any input, please? I'm a link nurse for eating disorders. I can get in touch with you after, Dan. Thank you. Any more questions from anyone? Can the older range of young people go on it themselves? They may not want to do this with someone. Of course, yeah. I think obviously it's a website, so anyone can access it at any point, and it's not something that is like young people can only go on it when they're in a group. Like, this is something that you can encourage young people to do on their own. I think what we're just talking about today is like, what are the ways that we can bring it to life? Because I think that there's so much interaction and like possibility for like kind of really amazing like reflective conversations that can come off the back of it, and it doesn't just have to live in like the digital world. But yeah, absolutely, people can do it on their own. Lucy's got her hand up, so I'll pass over.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest it's more, I think like this should be kind of a standard thing that is done in a wellbeing group session, you know, rather than wait for there to be an issue to address. It's just something that we should already be talking about. It should just be a general, you know, one of those things that we do in one of our sessions, just because why not? You know, if it's like they say, if you're not dealing with the problem or dealing with a certain subject, someone else will, and you don't want that to come from kind of social media only. So if this is kind of their first interaction, this is probably one of the best ones to have, you know, as a very first.
Thanks, Lucy. Someone's just said in the chat, I wanted to say that I've already used this with a young person and it was really positive. The TED Talk and other video as part of one of the modules was very powerful. So thank you, Emma. And someone else said, don't have any questions, but what an amazing resource. Thank you. Thank you, Dania. And final question, I think, is about the target age range, but wondering what thoughts are on using the resources or modules with a pregnant young person. Pregnancy can very much impact body image and eating. That's a really good question. I think there's nothing really specifically on there for someone who is pregnant, but that's not to say that they wouldn't get something from going through the content. I guess there isn't necessarily anything specific for them and their situation on there right now. But also that's one of the great things about our resources part of the site, because it basically we can update that and add more kind of specific resources on different identities or people who are going through different things. So thank you for that. That's a good suggestion.
Can I just comment on that, Nina?
Yeah.
Just because if somebody is struggling with body image, often during pregnancy, it's one of the risk factors for someone to go on to then develop an eating disorder. So it would actually be a really good time to do some work and start those conversations, and then be thinking, you know, like, does it need a referral to a specialist service if there were stronger concerns?
Thank you, Jennifer. It's a really good point. So I think there aren't any questions left. So I'm just going to put a poll up. If you don't mind just quickly answering that. It should have just flashed up on your screen now. Thank you to those who already answered it. And thank you everyone so much for taking part today. It's been so amazing to hear about some of your ideas and to see how passionate everyone is about this topic. And please do keep in touch with us. Send us over your support services, send us over any kind of resources that you have and you would like to share, and keep an eye out for future events.